All right, so today is Monday, the 19th of January 2026. We just quickly look through important events for the week, fundamental events, so that we can prepare ourselves ahead and know, when this event will come up, and possibly if you're interested in trading them, you might look towards that direction. Now, today, Monday, there'll be a bank holiday in the United States. So this might impact upon the movement of the US dollar. So today you have to trade any dollar related pair with all form of caution. When we use the word, trade with caution, what we're saying is that one, make sure that you have your risk management in place. That is, make sure you have a good stop loss in place when you place a trade. And secondly, also is that when we say trade with caution, monitor your trade. Don't just leave it, to run on its own without you being involved. So trade the dollar with caution today. Now, other important events today, we have CPI from Canada by 2:30 p.m. We have the CPI monthly, median CPI yearly, trim CPI yearly, common CPI. Purely CPI, four events. Three of them are high impact, except the last one, which is a common CPI yearly, which is a medium impact event. Though even at 4:30, there's still going to be Bank of Canada Business Outlook Survey, but we're not really bothered about that. So with the CPI coming up from Canada by 2:30 p.m., we expect a lot of volatility on the Canadian dollar. A lot of volatility. Now, there'll be another analysis session by 1:30 p.m. You'll be guided on how to trade. Now, we're not trading CPI from Canada live. The only CPI we trade live is the United States dollar, but we can still go ahead to guide you on how to trade it if you're interested in trading it. So please watch out. Volatility is expected on the Canadian dollar today by 2:30 p.m. And on Tuesday, the key event on Tuesday, key fundamental event, we have claimant count change from the United Kingdom by 8 a.m. It might give us some volatility. Then we have Bank of England, Governor Bailey will give a speech. Now, speeches are a bit tricky to trade. What I do advise sometimes is that I stay out. So just be cautious anytime you see a speech. So with this particular one coming up by 10:45 a.m. tomorrow, please take all caution. Most importantly, if you have running trades, make sure that there is a stop loss in place, because speeches can produce some erratic movement in the market. On Wednesday, we have CPI from the United Kingdom by 8 a.m. This one is tradable and volatility is expected. So please watch out. Now, on that Wednesday, there are other speeches which might destabilize the market, like ECB President Lagarde's speech. That's the European Central Bank President Lagarde will give a speech. There will be WEF annual meetings. President Trump is also going to give a speech on Wednesday. So please watch out. Volatility is expected. But most importantly, make sure you have your risk management in place. Then by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, there'll be pending home sales from US. That is expected to give some volatility. And ECB President Lagarde will still give a speech again later in the day by 5:45 p.m. So we can see that there'll be a lot of speeches on Wednesday. But if there's any trade I don't want you to miss on Wednesday, that should be the CPI from United Kingdom by 8 a.m. This will give nice and clean volatility, which you can take advantage of. Even if this is all you catch for Wednesday, I tell you, you can make all the money you need that day. So watch out for the CPI from the United Kingdom by 8 a.m. on Wednesday. And on Thursday, news from Australia always comes up in the middle of the night right here in Nigeria. Now, it's at your discretion. You're a trader. If you want to stay awake to trade, it's all at your own personal discretion. So if you want to do that, you might look towards trading the employment change and unemployment rates from Australia by 1:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. And peradventure you miss that. Like I always tell my students, if you miss a trade, there's nothing to worry about. There will always be another trade another day. So same Thursday by afternoon to 30 p.m. There's core PCA price index and final GDP price index, unemployment claims, you know, October core PCA price index data, all from US by 2:30 p.m. So if you miss the night trade, then there's nothing to worry about. There are about five events to trade on United States dollar by 2:30 p.m. that same Thursday. So you can watch out for that. And finally, on Friday is the busiest of all the days. You can see a lot of fundamental data coming up that day. But we're starting from the 8 a.m. Now the JPY will come up in the night. No specific time. It's tentative, meaning no specific time has been given. But by 8 a.m. on Friday, there will be retail sales from the United Kingdom. This is expected to move the market. Then we have all the flash and the services PMI, both from the UK and the Eurozone. Later 11 a.m., President Lagarde will give a speech. But then in the afternoon, there's going to be core retail sales and retail sales from Canada. Now, this is expected to be a tradable event, which you can watch. You can really take your time to watch and trade this particular one because volatility is expected on the Canadian dollar. All right, so that'll be all from my outlook, fundamental outlook of the expected news. Let me say better, the tradable fundamental events that we're expecting for this week. You may watch this video over to, catch up with all the things I've said so far. So without wasting our time, I'll go straight to the chart for us to look at the technicals that we're expecting for this particular week. So I'm switching over now to my MetaTrader platform for us to look at the chart. All right, so the first I'm looking at today is the USDCHF. Now, there was volatility overnight as the week started. Some instruments started with gaps. There was a massive gap across a lot of pairs, especially the CHF pairs, and even some that are not CHF based. We saw some gap around there. But like I said, we're starting with the US dollar, and take a look at the dollar index. And then look at at least a couple of other major currency pairs. Now, I'm looking at the dollar index on the daily time frame, and we can see overnight, there was a massive drop in the dollar index. That's the USDX, where the drop as at this moment is to the tune of the previous daily candles, which were bullish. So it shows that there's a lot of bearish sentiment, on the dollar index today. If you take a closer look, we can see it's also, we have watching this previous support turn resistance here, and it's still the same zone that we have the dollar index. So we're expecting some bearish sentiment on the USDX today. So with that being said, we'll go straight to the USDCHF. Now, this is the USDCHF on the daily time frame. We can see that price, is trending downwards. Price hit the trend line, forming a series of lower highs, lower high. Then we have a lower high here. And this is today's candle already, all red, trying to face the bearish direction. Now, if we take it down to 4-hour time frame, discover that price has clearly broken out, below the lower trend line. It's really in the bearish direction. So we expect further bearish movement. Now, don't forget that today there is there's holiday in the United States. So it all depends. It's a 50-50. We may have price drop sharply, or we may have it make some retracement, because when you have a bank holiday like that, the currency pair may not move as expected. So it could either be erratic, sharp movement, or a retracement. Any of it is expected. So it could be a sharp drop or a retracement. Then maybe later on, since it's a 4-hour setup, later on as the week unfolds, we may see the bearish movement. Any of it, could happen. We are just to watch closely and identify what's happening in the market. And as a confirmation to that, also, I just highlighted a recent minor support which could trigger a retracement. You can see there's a minor support there. So if price breaks out below this support, then we will have a free fall of price downwards. RSI is already below 50. MACD is yet to cross below 0, but like I always say, MACD is subjective. It depends on your preference. If you are, a conservative trader, but if you're aggressive, if price breaks out below this current level with your RSI below 50, you're free to take a sell. But if you're conservative, you want to wait to see the MACD or equally cross below 0. So if price breaks out, you can take a sell. But then if it retraces, then you may also want to wait for MACD to cross below 0. But generally speaking, I hold a bearish outlook on the USD CHF. And with that being said, now this USD CHF is on 4-hour, and that may be more suitable for those who are swing traders. But if we come down to 1-hour time frame, I'm seeing something clearer on the 1 hour for intraday traders who might want to trade the Euro USD. So while the dollar is facing downwards, then you know that the major currency pairs where the dollar is a quote currency like Euro USD is expected to have a bullish sentiment. So you can see that Euro USD is making an uptrend with higher lows, and we expect a further break to the upside direction. Now, overnight, there was a massive bullish movement on the Euro USD, which we can see clearly there. And we can flick down to 1 hour, and on the 1 hour time frame, you can see a falling wedge. Price already broke out above the upper trend line there. But then I'm seeing the possible formation of, you know, an inverse head and shoulder, which will trigger, a bullish breakout. So price might drop as a retracement before breaking out. Or then, even if it decides to break out outrightly, it's a possibility. This region here becomes the neckline. What we're waiting for now is a clear breakout above this neckline, either a retracement first or an outright breakout. So this is intraday, meaning it could happen in the course of today. So if you're there, you're watching for a trade to take in the course of today, I will advise you pay attention to the Euro USD. Now you can see that Fibonacci 50 is very close to that, box there from where we're expecting a breakout. So if a new candle breaks out above Fibonacci 50, we expect price may want to target Fibonacci 61.8 and probably Fibonacci 78.2. So we have a movement of between 14 pips and 33 pips to go from the point of breakout. So we're expecting about 14 to 33 pips breakout on the Euro USD in the course of today, all things being equal. Okay, next I'll look at is gold. Now we have a lot of gold enthusiasts, on board. But then I keep saying that gold is politically driven, at this point in time. Last week we had a retracement, and I remember telling us that sorry, we had price trading within a range. If you join my analysis, I think on Friday, I had this box, somewhere right here. And I said if price breaks out to the downside, we can take a sell, which happened in the course of that day. It was a very sharp drop, and price retraced back into the box, into the retracement zone. Sorry, into the range zone, pardon me. And then later on, as the week started, price broke out, above again. So it really followed the analysis, though the timing, I believe maybe many of us were fast asleep when that happened, like myself do. Now, what's the outlook for this week? Price is approaching a key level, you know, a psychological level at $4,700 per ounce. So if price hits that level, I expect a market reaction of possibly a retracement. So that's what we're looking out for as the week, really starts. Price, this is 1 hour time frame. Price going to hit this resistance, and possibly from there we might experience a downward movement. That's if there's no political, or fundamental factor that pushes the price up. So we are just neutral on gold until price hits that resistance. Then from there we may expect some, maybe a retracement or possibly a reversal. All right, I'll show us a couple of other instruments like I'm looking at the JPY pairs this week, and many of them at the moment they have a kind of a bullish outlook. I'll look at the just a second. I'll look at the NZD JPY and the Euro JPY. Now, this is the NZD JPY on the 4-hour time frame. And the week actually started with some of these instruments, having irregular candles, gaps, like I mentioned earlier. Now, if we go to now on the 4-hour time frame, we can see the overall trend right here is a bullish trend. Higher lows, higher low, higher low. So we expect a further movement to the bullish direction. But then we should not neglect the fact that there's actually resistance, up there from the daily or even from the weekly time frame. Yeah, there's a resistance zone up there from the weekly time frame. with the candle for last week closing as a rejection candle. So price may just make its way to hit the resistance before actually reversing down. So it's a short-term bullish trend in the real sense of it. Now, if you take it down to 1 hour time frame, this is where price is at the moment, still in an uptrend with a minor resistance here. I perceive price may make a retracement because I'm seeing that price is trying to form what is looking like an inverse head and shoulder, which may trigger it eventually to that, resistance zone. So if it works out like that in the course of today, we'll just watch this closely. That's the first shoulder. We may see a retracement and a breakout. Once price breaks out above this minor resistance, which is acting like a neckline, then we expect price to find its way to that resistance zone. And that can generate on the average between 20 to 30 to 40 pips, for us as the week unfolds. So we are bullish on the NZD on 1 hour. And likewise, I'm checking the Euro JPY also. And the Euro JPY is also in a bullish trend, just like the NZD JPY. Though the outlook is a little bit different. For the Euro JPY, price hit a support on the daily time frame. This is the support zone on the daily time frame. And on the 1 hour, we are also expecting an inverse head and shoulder. So I'm expecting the next wave to be a slight downtrend before the bullish, breakout takes place. And we can also see here that we have the formation of a rising wedge pattern. In fact, I will take this one, give it a preference over the NZD-JPY because it's clearer. Always I prefer going for clearer setup. If it's not too clear, I may ignore it. But this one is looking a lot clearer. So price is the support zone on the daily time frame. We have a falling wedge. And we're expecting the formation of an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So if price breaks out above the neckline, that would be at that point in time, our RSI should be clearly above 50. So that should give us a clear sign of taking a buy trade on the Euro JPY. And the nearest Fibonacci level is 38.2. If we use that as our entry, Fibonacci 50 will give us 31 pips. Fibonacci 61.8 will give about 60 pips. And Fibonacci 78.6 will give about 111 pips. So, like I said, I'll give this one the preference. So we're bullish on the Euro JPY on 1 hour. Okay, I think I have just about two set up to go. Okay, I have just okay, two. Yeah. Now, there's this other instrument I've been watching since last week, and that's the NZD card. And maybe this week it might go in the direction of my analysis. Now, this NZD card on the daily time frame. All right, we can see here that price is overall in a downtrend. Price is trending down. So technically, we expect a further breakout into the bearish direction. Now, this region here is our confluence point. And why is it confluence? Price is touching the trend line. And there's also a resistance. We can clearly see the box. We have a resistance between this place and right here. So this point here, like I said, is our point of confluence from where we're expecting a reversal to take place on the NZD card. Now, it will have been a better and clearer one if it's a rejection candle, but then the day just started, so we are not seeing a rejection candle yet, but nonetheless, we use our technical instinct to still, try to follow suit. Now, on the 4 hour time frame, or let me see if it works better on 1 hour. Okay, either 4 hour or 1 hour. I'm seeing this one is not touching too clearly, but I was seeing possibly something that looks like maybe a triple top or maybe a head and shoulder, But nonetheless, either it works as a triple top or a head and shoulder pattern, I'm expecting, a downward movement because of this structure that I'm seeing here to break out downwards. So I can take it as a triple top for now, pending any other change. So with the trend line on the daily time frame, the resistance forming a confluence here, and possibly the formation of a triple top pattern, I'm expecting a bearish breakout on NZD card in the course of this week. Now it's a 4-hour setup, so it's a swing setup. So you're a swing trader, just watch out for this. If price will make its way, down to this lower trend line and break out below, with our RSI clearly below 50, it will be a time to trigger a sell on the NZD card. All right, so I'm bearish on the NZD card. For those that are just joining us, I mentioned earlier, I'm bearish on the USD CHF. I'm bearish on the USD CHF on 4-hour, NZD card on 4-hour. Now, the last instrument I'm showing us this morning is the US oil. And this one is actually a high probability setup. In fact, I would say that it has a higher probability than any other instrument I've analyzed this morning. So for the US oil on the weekly time frame, we can see that price is in an overall downtrend, where the trend line touches, where price touches the trend line, as it moves downwards. Now, the candle for last week closed as a rejection candle, very sharp doji there on the weekly time frame. And if you take it down to daily, we can see that we still have that rejection candle right here, the downward trend line, and a support turned resistance. So the overall trend on the US oil is bearish. Now, if we move down to 4-hour time frame, I'm seeing the formation of a head and shoulder pattern. Let me draw it clear better. Shoulder, head, second shoulder, and we're expecting a downpour. Let me use that word. Like I said, this is a very high probability setup. It's a very, very high probability setup. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, RSI is already below 50. It's at 45, and MACD has already crossed below 0. So the only thing we're waiting for now is price to make a break below this neckline region, and we see the downpour of pips on the on the US oil, USD. So we're going to watch this closely. This is actually our key instrument for the week. This is my analyst pick for the week. All right, you can see price is also around Fibonacci 50. So if a new candle breaks out below this Fibonacci 50 or the neckline region, we expect price to find its way to at least to Fibonacci 1.8 at about 61, let's just say roughly 60 pips. Fibonacci 78.2 at about 173 pips. And it's possible for price to get a Fibonacci 100 at about 300 pips. It's a swing setup. It is. Even if you decide to trade it on 1 hour, it's still swing. Oh, it will not hit all those levels today. Except where you are just looking at the first level. Yes, that is possible today if the breakout happens on time. That's Fibonacci 61.8. It's possible today. But the other Fibonacci levels, I would say maybe to tomorrow or beyond. All right. So we're bearish on the US oil. Watch this very closely, and I'll also update us as it unfolds. All right, so that will be all from my end this morning. I'll do a little recap, then I'll go to the comment section to attend to the requests I'm seeing. For the benefit of those who joined us late, we are bearish on the USD CHF on 4-hour. So that's a swing setup. We are bullish on the Euro USD on 1 hour. For gold, we're looking at gold on the 1 hour, but we are in between. I would say we are looking at the sell, but price needs to hit psychological level 4700 first before we look at possibly selling if the coast is clear, for gold. For NZD we are bullish on the 1 hour time frame, but then I said I will prefer the Euro JPY. So let me be silent on the NZD Let me just stick with the Euro JPY where we are bullish on the 1 hour. NZD card we're bearish on 4-hour, and the US oil we're bearish on 4-hour. All right, so that is all from my end. I'll look at the request here and attend to every one of them. So Mr. Edoze Chukwuogo is asking me to check GBP JPY. So let's quickly run through that. Okay, so this is GBP JPY on the daily time frame. The week started, like I said, with a gap and some irregular candles. So we can see price didn't really touch the support zone, at least on the daily time frame. Now, okay, you can see on the weekly time frame, uh, the week closed, last week closed with a rejection candle. The overall trend is still going to be bearish, but before then, there'll be some bullish movement, which that should let you know that whatever we are seeing as a bullish movement is a retracement. It's a retracement. Okay. But then price didn't even hit a support to start with, both on the daily or the weekly. Now this is the 4 hour. Okay, on the 4 hour, we may say that there is a minor support here between this level and the tip of this candle. So we'll go to 1 hour. All right, so this is 1 hour. So like the other JPY pair, like Euro JPY, what I anticipate may happen is the formation of an inverse head and shoulder to give a slight breakout to the upside. It's not a major breakout because, like I said, the overall trend is bearish because of the rejection candle on the weekly time frame. But before that bearish breakout happens, there is the possibility of a retracement. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. We are anticipating the formation of the second shoulder. So price may drop a little before breaking out to the upside. So watch out. Now, when I say drop a little, please, I didn't say you should sell. You need to follow price structure as it moves. We don't just jump into a trade. We are looking for patterns that align with our analysis. So, like I said, there may be a retracement, then a breakout. You are only buying if price breaks out above that region I just marked up there. And potential profit taking levels could be as much as the first level is Fibonacci 38.2, and that can give as much as between 15 to 19 pips. That's purely scalping. If you want to take that and get out, it's good. Fibonacci 50 can give as much as about 60 pips, and Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as about 100 pips. All right, so those are the levels that are expected on GBP JPY, possibly in the course of today. So we are bullish on 1 hour on the GBP JPY. All right, so Mr. Collins Anya is asking me to check USD card. All right, so this is USD card on the daily time frame, and price, there is a previous support, turn resistance. Now, this resistance here is also trying to form a double top pattern, so from the support on resistance, we're expecting the bearish movement. With what is looking a lot like a double top, we're equally looking for a bearish breakout. Though on 4 hour is not really looking like a double top, but that's what we are kind of seeing on the daily. Let me check the 1 hour if we can catch anything. For the 1 hour, I have personal concern with the inclination of this trend line. I would have preferred something that looks more sharp. But then, well, that's what's in the market. We don't dictate for the market. So if price breaks out below this lower trend line, you can see RSI is already below 50, MACD is already below zero. If a new candle breaks out below that lower trend line, we can take a sell on the USD card. It's a bit targeting profit level on this one will be a bit difficult. So I'd rather use the recent lows as possibly profit taking levels. It's just a scalp trade if you're selling on 1 hour. So you're looking at between 10 to 25 pips if you're trading it on 1 hour. But the best of this actually is that you trade it on a swing, which is 4 hour, because that's what the daily is showing. So it's clearer to sell on the 4 hour compared to the 1 hour. So if you're doing it as a swing one, your RSI should be clearly below 50. Now for this one, I would also advise your MACD cross below zero. Then you see this as a double top and you trigger a sell at the breakout below that line. Then you expect, a bigger movement to the downside. So our recent low will be used for the Fibonacci level. I mean, to set the Fibonacci right there. So if you're taking it from that point, you may be looking at between 16 pips to 38, sorry, to 57 pips for your TP1, about 50 pips, sorry, about 90 pips to Fibonacci 50, and about 120 pips of Fibonacci 61.8. So I'd rather suggest you look at it more from the swing angle. That's a lot clearer than the 1 hour. But either ways, we're bearish on the USD card on 4 hour time frame. All right, so I take the last request here, USDJPY. Okay. No, I said we are bearish on the dollar, but then the USDJPY, because of the JPY there, USDJPY sometimes do have its own movement separate from this. In some instances, though, may not really follow the dollar index directly because JPY has its own characteristics in terms of movement. Now, for the USD we can see that the overall trend right here is bullish. Price is bound, making a series of higher highs, higher lows. Now, it hit a higher low recently, and it may go up. Yeah, possibly to the upside, though that may be a little retracement because you can clearly see there's a resistance up there. You can see the resistance box already drawn, coming from the daily time frame. I think it's also should be applicable on the weekly. Let me confirm. All right, you can see on the weekly time frame we have a valid resistance, and the candle that closed last week closed as a rejection candle. So technically, in the long term, we should expect a bearish movement on the USD JPY. But for now, we have some bullish movement to catch up with. So if you take it down to 1 hour, just like I mentioned for the other JPY pairs, we might be seeing the formation of an inverse head and shoulder and price pushing to that resistance zone. It's not going to be a big trade like that, but because reversal could happen anytime because of the rejection candle on the their weekly time frame. But then catching some 35 to 40 pips is still very possible on this one. But I would advise you make sure your RSI crosses clearly below 50 on this, and possibly your MACD should cross above zero. All right, that will be all from my analysis for this morning. I think I've attended to all the requests here. The last one I did is for Mr. Biodun. Don't forget we have physical training session at our two locations on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Abuja and Lagos. The address for our Abuja office is, you're welcome, Mr. Biodun, is Work and Connect Building, 50AB2 Ukiwe Street, Jabi, Abuja. And the time is 11 a.m. While the address for our Lagos office is Lagos Executive Business Lounge, 54B Adeni Jones Avenue, Ikeja, Lagos. Time is also 11 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursday. We hope to see you at these two locations. And if you don't have an account with PU Prime yet, reach out to your account manager. If anybody has reached out to you from PU Prime, maybe they've called you or sent you a chat, visit those communications and check if there's a registration link there. That person that called you is actually your account manager. So do reach out to that person, get registered. But if you're still having any issue with registration, you can as well still reach out to me. I can guide you on how to get registered and get started. Okay, Mr. Collins, are we trading live USD card today by 2:30 p.m.? No, we are not. We only trade USD CPI and NFP from the United States. These are the two live trading sessions we have, at the moment. But then by 12:30 p.m., we'll have our afternoon analysis session where you'll be given insights into how to trade the news from Canada today by 2:30 p.m. All right, that'll be all from my end this morning. Do take care. I'll make sure I drop the link to this session so that you can watch it again to get clearer insights into all what we've said so far. Take care and have a great week ahead. Bye bye.